The morning sun cast golden ripples across Blackwater Bay, its surface mirror-smooth except for the gentle wake of early fishing boats heading out for their daily catch. The air hung thick with humidity, carrying the scent of pine and brackish water that defined the coastal region of Cedar Point, Florida. It was Saturday, June 15th, 2019, and the weather forecast promised perfect conditions for water recreation. The temperature would climb to 85 degrees, with clear skies and minimal wind, ideal for jet skiing, boating, and all the summer activities that drew tourists and locals alike to this pristine stretch of the Gulf Coast. Jennifer Rodriguez adjusted her bright yellow life vest one final time, her long dark hair catching the morning light as she stood on the weathered wooden dock behind Mike Demeter's waterfront home. At 28 years old, Jennifer possessed an infectious enthusiasm for outdoor adventures that had drawn Mike to her from the moment they met at a local coffee shop 6 months earlier. Her background as a marine biology graduate student at the University of South Florida meant she felt completely at home on the water, though her academic focus on laboratory research and specimen analysis meant she had limited experience with recreational watercraft. Despite her extensive knowledge of marine ecosystems and swimming abilities honed through years of research diving, she had never operated a jet ski before this particular morning. Mike Demeter, 32 years old, and a certified personal trainer who had lived in Cedar Point his entire life, owned two pristine Yamaha jet skis that he maintained meticulously in the boathouse attached to his property. The machines represented his primary recreational passion, and he had spent countless weekends exploring the intricate network of channels, inlets, and open water areas that made this region a paradise for water sports enthusiasts. His sun-weathered hands moved with practiced efficiency as he performed his usual pre-ride safety checks, ensuring adequate fuel levels, proper engine oil, and functional emergency equipment. "Remember, the throttle is very sensitive," Mike explained to Jennifer, his voice carrying both excitement and concern. "Start with gentle pressure and gradually increase speed as you get comfortable. The steering responds to your body weight too, so lean into your turns, but don't overcorrect." Jennifer nodded attentively, her scientific mind automatically categorizing each instruction as she watched Mike demonstrate proper mounting and dismounting techniques. Her enthusiasm was infectious, but Mike noticed the slight tremor in her hands that betrayed her nervousness about operating such a powerful machine for the first time. The couple had planned this particular outing for weeks, waiting for ideal weather conditions and a weekend when both their schedules aligned. Jennifer's graduate research had been particularly demanding. Lately, with long hours in the laboratory analyzing water samples and marine specimens collected from various Gulf Coast locations. Her thesis focused on the impact of coastal development on seagrass ecosystems, work that required precise analysis of water chemistry and marine organism populations. Mike's personal training business had been booming with summer clients preparing for beach season, leaving him exhausted most evenings. This Saturday represented their first opportunity in nearly a month to spend uninterrupted time together pursuing the outdoor activities they both loved. As they prepared to launch the jet skis from Mike's private dock, Jennifer's excitement was palpable. She had been talking about learning to operate a jet ski for months, viewing it as another way to connect with the aquatic environment that fascinated her professionally. "I can't believe I've studied marine ecosystems for years, but never experienced them from this perspective," she told Mike, her eyes bright with anticipation. Mike had promised to teach her the proper techniques in the relatively calm waters of Blackwater Bay before they ventured into the more challenging open waters of the Gulf. The bay itself stretched approximately 14 miles from north to south and averaged 6 miles in width, with numerous small islands, shallow areas, and protected coves that made it perfect for beginners to gain confidence and experience. Mike's waterfront property sat on the eastern shore of Blackwater Bay, approximately 9 miles north of the main channel that connected the bay to the Gulf of Mexico. The area around his home featured dense mangrove forests, tall cypress trees draped with Spanish moss, and occasional patches of sandy beach that provided ideal spots for swimming and picnicking. Wildlife was abundant throughout the region, with frequent sightings of dolphins, manatees, various bird species, and occasional alligators in the more remote backwater areas. Jennifer's scientific background made her particularly excited about observing marine life in its natural habitat, and she had brought waterproof notebooks to document any interesting species they encountered during their adventure. The first jet ski, a metallic blue 2018 Yamaha Wave Runner, was Jennifer's designated machine for the day. Mike had chosen it specifically because of its stable design and user-friendly controls, making it ideal for inexperienced riders. The second jet ski, a more powerful black and silver model from the same year, would serve as Mike's ride and allow him to stay close to Jennifer while she learned the basics of acceleration, steering, and safety procedures. Both machines had been serviced recently and were equipped with emergency whistles, first aid supplies, and GPS tracking devices that Mike considered essential safety equipment for any water excursion. Before entering the water, Mike spent nearly 30 minutes reviewing essential safety information with Jennifer. He demonstrated the proper way to mount and dismount the machine, explained the function of the emergency shutoff lanyard that would kill the engine if she fell off, and practiced basic hand signals they would use to communicate while riding. Jennifer listened intently, asking thoughtful questions about handling techniques and emergency procedures that demonstrated her serious approach to learning these new skills. "What should I do if I encounter another boat?" she asked, prompting Mike to explain right-of-way rules and proper communication protocols with other watercraft operators. The morning ritual also included checking weather conditions one final time, using Mike's marine radio and smartphone weather applications. All forecasts continued to predict ideal conditions throughout the day, with calm winds, excellent visibility, and no precipitation expected until late evening. The water temperature registered 78 degrees, perfect for swimming if they decided to stop at one of the secluded beaches they planned to visit during their adventure. Mike also tested both jet skis thoroughly, running them at the dock to ensure proper engine performance and checking all safety systems one final time. At exactly 9:30 in the morning, they launched both jet skis from Mike's dock and began their journey with a leisurely tour of the immediate area around his property. Jennifer quickly demonstrated natural aptitude for controlling her machine, maintaining steady speeds and executing gentle turns with growing confidence. "This is incredible," she shouted over the engine noise, her face radiant with joy as she felt the machine respond to her commands. Mike stayed within 50 yards of her position at all times, occasionally shouting encouragement and additional tips over the sound of the engines. He was impressed by how quickly she adapted to the unique challenges of operating a jet ski, particularly the way she instinctively leaned into turns and adjusted her speed for different water conditions. Their initial destination was Heron Island, a small uninhabited landmass located approximately 4 miles southwest of Mike's dock. The island featured a pristine sandy beach on its northern shore and served as a popular destination for boaters and jet ski riders seeking a peaceful spot to relax, swim, and enjoy packed lunches. The trip to Heron Island would serve as Jennifer's introduction to longer-distance riding while staying within the protected waters of Blackwater Bay. Mike had chosen this route specifically because it offered varied scenery, moderate distances between rest stops, and multiple escape routes if weather conditions deteriorated unexpectedly. The journey proceeded smoothly, with both riders maintaining moderate speeds and stopping occasionally to rest and discuss Jennifer's progress. She expressed amazement at how quickly she was gaining comfort and confidence operating the jet ski, commenting repeatedly on the incredible scenery and wildlife they encountered along the way. They photographed several dolphins that approached curiously, apparently accustomed to human activity in these waters. Jennifer was particularly excited to observe a group of manatees feeding in a shallow grass flat, using her scientific knowledge to explain their behavior and ecological importance to Mike. "Look how they're stirring up the sediment," she pointed out excitedly. "They're actually helping aerate the seagrass beds, which improves the overall ecosystem health." Upon reaching Heron Island around 10:45 in the morning, they beached both jet skis on the sandy shore and spent nearly an hour exploring the small island, swimming in the crystal-clear water, and sharing the picnic lunch Jennifer had prepared the previous evening. The meal consisted of sandwiches, fresh fruit, bottled water, and homemade cookies that Jennifer had baked specifically for their adventure. Mike used his waterproof camera to capture numerous photos of Jennifer enjoying her first jet ski experience, images that would later become precious memories for both their families. "I want to remember every moment of this," Jennifer told him as they sat on the beach, her hand intertwined with his as they watched pelicans diving for fish in the clear water. As they prepared to leave Heron Island around noon, Mike suggested they extend their adventure by exploring the scenic channel that connected Blackwater Bay to the Gulf of Mexico. This route would provide Jennifer with experience handling slightly more challenging water conditions while still maintaining reasonable safety margins. The channel itself stretched approximately 6 miles from the bay to the open Gulf, with protected waters throughout its length and numerous places to stop if weather conditions deteriorated unexpectedly. Mike explained that the channel was known for its spectacular scenery and abundant wildlife, making it one of his favorite areas to explore on the jet skis. Jennifer enthusiastically agreed to the extended route, feeling confident in her abilities after the successful trip to Heron Island. "I feel like I was born to do this," she told Mike, her confidence clearly genuine as she maneuvered her jet ski with increasing skill. They launched from the beach at 12:15 and headed south toward the main channel, maintaining their established pattern of moderate speeds and frequent communication. The water remained calm, with only gentle swells that added slight excitement without creating dangerous conditions for Jennifer's still developing skills. The channel leading to the Gulf meandered through some of the most beautiful scenery in the entire Cedar Point region. Towering cypress trees lined both shores, their massive trunks rising directly from the dark water and creating cathedral-like canopies overhead. Spanish moss draped from every branch, filtering the sunlight into shifting patterns of gold and green that danced across the water's surface. Occasional clearings revealed glimpses of expensive waterfront homes, their private docks and manicured lawns representing the lifestyle that attracted wealthy retirees and vacation homeowners to this pristine corner of Florida. Wildlife sightings increased dramatically as they progressed through the channel. Great blue herons stood motionless in shallow areas, waiting patiently for fish to venture within striking distance. Ospreys circled overhead, occasionally diving with spectacular precision to capture fish near the surface. Anhinga birds perched on fallen logs with their wings spread wide to dry their feathers after fishing expeditions. Jennifer's marine biology background made her particularly excited about these encounters, and she frequently asked Mike to stop so she could observe and photograph various species. "This is better than any field research I've ever done," she called out to Mike, her voice filled with wonder as they watched a family of river otters playing along the shoreline. Around 1:30 in the afternoon, they reached the point where the channel opened into the Gulf of Mexico. The transition from protected inland waters to the open ocean was dramatic and breathtaking. The horizon stretched endlessly in every direction, interrupted only by occasional fishing boats and cargo ships traveling the shipping lanes far offshore. The watercolor changed from the dark tannin-stained hue of the inland areas to brilliant turquoise and deep blue that seemed to extend forever. Jennifer sat quietly on her jet ski for several minutes, absorbing the majesty of the open ocean and reflecting on how her scientific studies had never fully prepared her for the emotional impact of experiencing these waters firsthand. Mike had originally planned to turn around at this point, considering it a successful conclusion to Jennifer's first major jet ski adventure. However, Jennifer expressed strong interest in exploring. A short distance into the Gulf waters, arguing that the conditions appeared perfect, and she felt completely confident in her abilities. "Please, Mike, just a little further," she pleaded, her eyes bright with excitement. "I may never get another chance to experience this." After some discussion and careful evaluation of weather conditions, Mike agreed to a brief exploration of the nearshore Gulf waters, with the understanding that they would turn back immediately if conditions changed or Jennifer experienced any difficulties. They spent approximately 45 minutes exploring the shallow waters just outside the channel entrance, staying within a half-mile of shore and maintaining constant visual contact with the channel markers that would guide their return journey. Jennifer marveled at the clarity of the Gulf waters and the abundance of marine life visible in the shallow areas. Schools of small fish created silvery clouds beneath the surface, while rays glided gracefully over the sandy bottom in deeper areas. "This is my element," she told Mike during one of their stops. "I understand now why I was drawn to marine biology. There's something magical about being surrounded by all this life." At approximately 2:20 in the afternoon, they began their return journey through the channel toward Blackwater Bay. Both riders felt exhilarated by the successful adventure and looked forward to sharing stories and photos with friends and family. Jennifer's confidence had grown tremendously throughout the day, and she was already talking about planning future jet ski trips to explore other areas of the region. "We should do this every weekend," she suggested enthusiastically. "There are so many areas I want to explore, and I feel like I'm finally understanding these ecosystems in a completely new way." The return trip through the channel proceeded normally for the first several miles. They maintained their established communication patterns and stopped twice to rest and hydrate in the increasingly warm afternoon sun. Jennifer continued to handle her jet ski with skill and confidence, navigating the winding channel and occasional boat wakes without difficulty. Mike later told investigators that he felt completely comfortable with Jennifer's abilities and had no concerns about her safety or competence operating the machine. If anything, he was amazed by her rapid mastery of techniques that had taken him weeks to learn when he first started riding jet skis. Around 3:15 in the afternoon, they approached a section of the channel known locally as Serpent's Turn, where the waterway made a sharp 90-degree turn around a heavily forested point of land. This area was notorious among local boaters for creating confusing currents and occasional navigation challenges, though it presented no particular dangers for experienced operators using proper caution. Mike had successfully navigated this section hundreds of times over the years and considered it routine. The area got its name from the way the channel curved like a snake around the wooded peninsula, creating multiple blind spots and confusing sightlines that could disorient unfamiliar boaters. As they approached Serpent's Turn, Mike noticed that Jennifer had fallen behind his position by approximately 100 yards. This was unusual, as she had maintained close proximity throughout the entire day, often riding almost alongside him rather than following behind. He immediately slowed his jet ski and turned around to check on her progress, assuming she might be experiencing mechanical difficulties or simply wanted to rest. The afternoon heat was becoming more intense, and they had been riding for several hours without a substantial break. However, when he looked back toward her last known position, Jennifer and her jet ski were nowhere to be seen. The channel stretched straight for nearly a quarter-mile behind him, with excellent visibility and no obvious places where she could have turned off the main waterway. Mike's initial reaction was confusion rather than alarm, as the heavily forested shoreline and numerous small inlets in this area created many blind spots where Jennifer might have stopped to explore or rest. He spent several minutes riding in expanding circles, calling her name and scanning every visible inlet and shoreline feature. The sound of her jet ski engine was no longer audible, which struck him as particularly odd since the Oi feast. Machines were quite loud, and sound traveled effectively across water. Mike began to feel the first stirrings of genuine worry, as he realized that Jennifer had essentially vanished from an area with good visibility and limited hiding places. He started calling her name more loudly and frantically, his voice echoing off the water and through the moss-draped trees that lined the channel. After 10 minutes of searching without success, Mike's confusion transformed into genuine concern. He began riding more systematically through the area, checking every possible location where Jennifer might have stopped or encountered difficulties. He called her name continuously and occasionally revved his engine in a distinctive pattern they had established earlier as a recall signal. The lack of any response or visual contact with her bright yellow life vest became increasingly alarming. The silence was particularly unsettling, as Jennifer had been chattering excitedly throughout the day and would normally have responded immediately to his calls. Mike expanded his search to include several small tributaries and backwater channels that branched off from the main waterway. These areas were shallow and difficult to navigate, making it unlikely that Jennifer would have ventured into them intentionally, but desperation drove him to explore every possibility. The dense vegetation and overhanging branches created an almost claustrophobic atmosphere as he maneuvered through these narrow passages, calling Jennifer's name and hoping to hear some response or see some sign of her passage. By 3:45 in the afternoon, Mike realized this situation had evolved beyond a simple communication problem or mechanical issue. Jennifer had essentially vanished without trace in an area where visibility was good and hiding places were limited. His hands shaking with adrenaline and fear, he immediately headed for the nearest cell phone coverage area, which required a 10-minute ride back toward the mouth of the channel. During this desperate journey, his mind raced through possible explanations, each one more frightening than the last. The Cedar Point County Sheriff's Marine Unit received Mike's emergency call at 4:02 in the afternoon. Sergeant Maria Santos, a veteran Marine Patrol officer with 15 years of experience, immediately dispatched 2 patrol boats to Serpent's Turn, while simultaneously coordinating with the Coast Guard and local fire rescue units. The initial response protocol for missing persons on water called for immediate deployment of all available resources due to the time-critical nature of potential drowning situations. Sergeant Santos had handled dozens of marine emergencies throughout her career, but something about Mike's panicked voice and the mysterious circumstances of Jennifer's disappearance set off alarm bells in her experienced mind. Sergeant Santos arrived at Serpent's Turn at 4:28 in the afternoon aboard the Marine Unit's primary patrol vessel, a 30-foot Boston whaler equipped with advanced navigation and communication equipment. She immediately began interviewing Mike, while her partner, Deputy James Wilson, initiated a systematic search pattern using GPS coordinates to ensure complete coverage of the area. Mike appeared genuinely distraught and cooperative, providing detailed information about their activities throughout the day and the circumstances surrounding Jennifer's disappearance. His emotional state seemed consistent with someone who had just lost a loved one in a tragic accident, though Santos made careful mental notes about his responses and demeanor for future reference. "She was right behind me," Mike repeated several times during the initial interview, his voice breaking with emotion. "We'd been together all day, staying close, communicating constantly. Then I looked back and she was just gone. How does someone just disappear like that?" Santos found his distress convincing, but her training and experience had taught her to remain objective during the critical early hours of an investigation when evidence was most likely to be preserved and witness memories were most reliable. The initial search focused on the water areas immediately surrounding Serpent's Turn, operating under the assumption that Jennifer might have experienced mechanical difficulties, fallen from her jet ski, or become disoriented in the maze of channels and inlets. Teams of divers from the county rescue squad were dispatched to search underwater areas where a jet ski might have sunk, while additional patrol boats expanded the search perimeter to cover wider areas of the channel system. The water depth in most areas ranged from 8 to 15 feet, making diving operations feasible and thorough examination of the bottom possible. Coast Guard helicopters arrived at the scene by 5:15 in the afternoon, equipped with advanced thermal imaging and search cameras capable of detecting objects and persons both on the water surface and in wooded areas along the shoreline. The aerial perspective revealed the complexity of the search area, with countless small channels, hidden coves, and dense forest areas that could potentially conceal a missing person or abandoned watercraft. From above, the searchers could see how the intricate network of waterways created numerous possibilities for someone to become lost or disoriented, even with GPS navigation equipment. As evening approached, and no trace of Jennifer or her jet ski had been discovered, incident commanders made the decision to expand the search area significantly and call in additional specialized resources. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission contributed additional patrol boats and officers familiar with the local waterways. Volunteer search and rescue teams from throughout the region were activated and began arriving to assist with the coordinated effort. The command post, established in the parking area of a nearby boat ramp, quickly filled with emergency vehicles, communication equipment, and concerned family members who had been notified of the situation. Throughout the first night of searching, teams worked continuously using powerful searchlights and thermal imaging equipment. The search pattern expanded to cover virtually every accessible waterway within a 20-mile radius of Serpent's Turn, including remote areas that would have been extremely difficult for Jennifer to reach even if she had become severely disoriented. Divers continued underwater searches in areas where depth and visibility permitted, focusing particularly on known hazards such as submerged logs, rock formations, and areas of strong current that might have trapped a disabled watercraft. Mike remained at the search command post throughout the night, providing additional details about Jennifer's background, swimming abilities, and any medical conditions that might affect her survival in the emergency situations. He explained that Jennifer was an excellent swimmer with extensive experience in ocean environments through her marine biology research. She was in outstanding physical condition and had no known medical issues that would impair her ability to survive in water for extended periods. "She's stronger than she looks," he told the searchers repeatedly. "If anyone could survive something like this, it would be Jennifer. She knows the water better than almost anyone." Family, Members began arriving from various locations as news of Jennifer's disappearance spread through telephone calls and social media. Jennifer's parents, Maria and Carlos Rodriguez, drove through the night from their home in Tampa, arriving at the command post early Sunday morning, visibly distraught, but determined to assist with search efforts in any way possible. Maria Rodriguez collapsed into Mike's arms upon arrival, both of them sobbing as the reality of the situation fully hit them. Jennifer's younger sister, Carmen, a nursing student at Florida State University, also rushed to Cedar Point to join the family vigil, bringing additional photographs and detailed information about Jennifer's habits and preferences that might assist searchers. The second day of searching brought additional resources and expanded search patterns that covered areas far beyond the initial focus zone. Teams began exploring the possibility that Jennifer might have become lost in the maze of backwater channels and could be stranded somewhere with a disabled jet ski, waiting for rescue. This scenario offered hope that she might still be alive, though survival would become increasingly difficult with each passing hour due to dehydration, exposure, and potential wildlife encounters. The summer heat and humidity would accelerate dehydration, while the abundant alligator population in remote areas posed additional dangers. Search teams also began investigating alternative theories about what might have happened to Jennifer. Marine accident investigators examined the possibility that her jet ski had experienced catastrophic mechanical failure, though the machine had been thoroughly serviced recently and showed no signs of problems during their day-long adventure. They interviewed the mechanics who had worked on both jet skis and reviewed maintenance records going back several months, finding no evidence of any mechanical issues that could have caused sudden failure. The theory of criminal activity was also considered, though the remote location and lack of obvious motives made this seem unlikely. Investigators interviewed other boaters who had been in the area on June 15th, hoping to identify anyone who might have had contact with Jennifer or witnessed unusual activity. They also began reviewing Mike's background more thoroughly, examining his relationships, financial situation, and any possible motives for harming Jennifer, though this investigation was conducted discreetly to avoid compromising the ongoing search efforts. Local media coverage of the search began on Sunday morning and quickly attracted regional and eventually national attention. Jennifer's disappearance had all the elements that captivated public interest. A young, attractive graduate student vanishing without trace during what should have been a routine recreational activity. Her background as a marine biology researcher added another layer of intrigue, as her expertise in aquatic environments made it seem unlikely she would simply become lost or overwhelmed by water conditions. Television crews set up near the command post, broadcasting live updates and interviews with family members and search coordinators. Mike found himself under increasing scrutiny as the search continued without results. While investigators had no evidence suggesting foul play, the fact that he was the last person to see Jennifer alive inevitably made him a person of interest in the investigation. He submitted to multiple interviews, polygraph examinations, and background checks, all of which supported his version of events and indicated no deception or involvement in Jennifer's disappearance. The stress of being suspected while simultaneously grieving Jennifer's loss took a severe emotional toll, and he required counseling support to cope with the combined pressures. The search effort continued for 12 full days, making it one of the most extensive missing person investigations in Cedar Point. County history. Teams covered over 400 square miles of waterways, interviewed dozens of witnesses who had been in the area on June 15th, and followed up on numerous tips and potential sightings that ultimately proved fruitless. The total cost of the search operation exceeded $300,000, involving resources from multiple agencies and hundreds of volunteers who donated their time and equipment to the effort. On June 27th, 12 days after Jennifer's disappearance, search coordinators made the difficult decision to scale back active search operations. While the case would remain open and investigators would continue following leads, the intensive daily search efforts were suspended due to the diminishing likelihood of finding Jennifer alive and the enormous resource requirements of maintaining such extensive operations. The decision was announced at a press conference attended by Jennifer's family, who thanked the searchers for their dedication while expressing their determination to continue looking for answers. The decision to reduce search efforts was devastating for Jennifer's family and friends, who had maintained hope throughout the ordeal that she would be found alive. Her parents established a reward fund for information leading to Jennifer's location and hired private investigators to continue searching areas that might have been overlooked by official efforts. They also worked with local media to keep Jennifer's story in the public consciousness, hoping that ongoing attention might generate new leads or witnesses who had not yet come forward. Months passed without significant developments in the case. Investigators followed dozens of tips and potential leads, including reports of abandoned jet skis found in remote areas, sightings of women matching Jennifer's description, and various theories proposed by amateur detectives following the case through social media and online forums. None of these leads produced credible evidence related to Jennifer's fate or whereabouts. The lack of progress was particularly frustrating for Jennifer's family, who struggled to find closure without knowing what had happened to their daughter and sister. The case took an unexpected turn in early November, nearly 5 months after Jennifer's disappearance, when hurricane activity in the Gulf of Mexico caused significant changes to water levels and currents throughout the region. Storm surge and heavy rainfall altered the landscape in many areas, exposing previously submerged objects and shifting debris that had been underwater for extended periods. Several other missing items from various incidents over the years were discovered during this period, raising hopes that Jennifer's jet ski might finally be located. On November 18th, a commercial fisherman named Robert Hayes was checking his nets in a remote area of Turtle Creek, approximately 18 miles southeast of Serpent's Turn, when he spotted what appeared to be debris from a watercraft partially buried in mud and vegetation along the shoreline. Upon closer investigation, Hayes discovered it was a severely damaged jet ski that matched the general description of Jennifer's missing machine. The location was so remote and difficult to access that Hayes had to use his boat to guide investigators to the site the following day. The jet ski was recovered by marine investigators and transported to a secure facility for detailed forensic examination. Despite extensive damage from months of exposure to saltwater, weather, and marine organisms, experts were able to confirm through serial numbers and distinctive modifications that it was indeed the machine Jennifer had been operating on the day of her disappearance. However, there was no sign of Jennifer herself or any of her personal belongings in the immediate area, despite extensive searching of the surrounding marshland and waterways. The discovery location presented new puzzles for investigators trying to reconstruct the events of June 15th. Turtle Creek was well outside the areas that had been searched extensively during the initial investigation, and the route from Serpent's Turn to this location would have required Jennifer to navigate through several miles of confusing channels and backwater areas that would have been extremely difficult for even an experienced rider to traverse. Marine experts considered it unlikely that an inexperienced rider could have reached this remote location intentionally, suggesting that current, weather, or other factors might have carried the jet ski there after Jennifer became separated from it. Forensic examination of the recovered jet ski revealed evidence of significant impact damage consistent with collision with a large object, possibly a fallen tree, submerged log, or rock formation. The damage was concentrated on the front and right side of the machine, suggesting a high-speed impact that would likely have thrown any rider into the water with considerable force. However, investigators could not determine whether this damage occurred before or after Jennifer's disappearance, and there was no definitive evidence indicating what caused her separation from the machine. The absence of blood or other biological evidence on the jet ski provided no clear indication of whether Jennifer had been injured in whatever incident led to her disappearance. Marine forensics experts noted that months of exposure to salt water and marine organisms would have eliminated most traces of biological material, making it impossible to determine whether Jennifer had been on the machine when it sustained the impact damage. The recovery of the jet ski answered some questions while raising many others about the sequence of events that led to Jennifer's disappearance. The discovery prompted a renewed search effort focused on the Turtle Creek area and surrounding waterways. Teams spent several weeks searching both water and land areas within a 5-mile radius of where the jet ski was found, hoping to locate Jennifer's remains or additional evidence that might explain what happened to her. Despite these intensive efforts, which included ground-penetrating radar surveys of suspicious areas and extensive diving operations in deeper water, no trace of Jennifer herself was ever discovered. As the first anniversary of Jennifer's disappearance approached, investigators and family members were forced to confront the possibility that the mystery might never be fully solved. The case had generated numerous theories and speculation, ranging from tragic accidents to more sinister possibilities, but hard evidence remained frustratingly elusive. Some experts suggested that Jennifer might have survived the initial incident but become lost in the vast wilderness areas surrounding the channel system, eventually succumbing to exposure or other environmental hazards in areas too remote to be effectively searched. Other theories focused on the possibility of a tragic accident in which Jennifer fell from her jet ski in deep water and was unable to reach safety despite her strong swimming abilities. Factors such as sudden weather changes, equipment malfunction, or unexpected medical emergency could have created circumstances where even an experienced swimmer might not survive. The warm Gulf waters and abundant marine life would have made it unlikely for remains to be preserved or recovered, even if the location of such an incident could be determined with precision. The impact of Jennifer's disappearance extended far beyond the immediate search efforts and investigation. Her family established the Jennifer Rodriguez Memorial Foundation, dedicated to promoting water safety education and supporting search and rescue operations in coastal communities. The foundation has provided funding for advanced search equipment, training programs for volunteer searchers, and safety education initiatives that have potentially prevented other similar tragedies. Carmen Rodriguez left her nursing program temporarily to work full-time for the foundation, channeling her grief into efforts to help other families avoid similar losses. Mike Demeter's life was forever changed by the events of June 15th and the intense scrutiny that followed. Despite being cleared of any involvement in Jennifer's disappearance, the emotional trauma of losing someone he cared about deeply and the stress of being considered a potential suspect took a significant toll on his mental health and personal relationships. He eventually relocated to another state and has largely avoided public discussion of the case, though he has occasionally cooperated with investigators and documentary producers seeking to shed new light on the mystery. Friends describe him as a shadow of his former self, haunted by guilt and regret over decisions made that day. The case has been featured in numerous television documentaries, podcast series, and online forums dedicated to unsolved mysteries. Each new examination of the evidence has generated fresh theories and speculation, but none have produced breakthrough discoveries that might finally explain what happened to Jennifer Rodriguez on that sunny Saturday morning in June. The story continues to captivate audiences because it represents the kind of inexplicable disappearance that challenges our understanding of how someone can simply vanish without trace in the modern world. Jennifer's family maintains hope that someday new evidence or witness testimony might provide the answers they have sought for years. They continue to mark the anniversary of her disappearance with public appeals for information and renewed search efforts in areas that might have been previously overlooked. The passage of time has not diminished their determination to find Jennifer, or at least understand what happened to her during those final hours on Blackwater Bay. Maria Rodriguez visits the memorial they erected at Serpent's Turn every month, leaving fresh flowers and maintaining her vigil for any sign of her daughter. The mystery of Jennifer Rodriguez's disappearance serves as a reminder of how quickly a routine recreational activity can transform into tragedy, and how vast wilderness areas can swallow evidence completely. Despite extensive search efforts, advanced technology, and the dedicated work of professional investigators and volunteers, some questions may never receive satisfactory answers. Jennifer's story continues to resonate with anyone who has ever ventured onto the water for recreation, serving as both a cautionary tale about the importance of safety precautions and a testament to the enduring power of hope in the face of uncertainty. In the years since Jennifer's disappearance, search and rescue techniques have continued to evolve, incorporating new technologies such as underwater drones, advanced sonar systems, and improved aerial surveillance capabilities. However, the fundamental challenges of searching vast aquatic environments remain largely unchanged, and cases like Jennifer's demonstrate the limitations of even the most sophisticated search methods when faced with the immense scale and complexity of natural waterway systems. The Jennifer Rodriguez case has become a training example for marine rescue units, illustrating both the importance of rapid response and the sobering reality that not every missing person can be found. The recent investigation into Jennifer Rodriguez's disappearance officially remains open, and law enforcement agencies continue to review new information and follow credible leads as they develop. While the intensive search efforts of June and July 2019 may never be repeated, the commitment to finding answers persists among investigators, family members, and community volunteers who refuse to let Jennifer's story fade into forgotten history. Her disappearance continues to haunt the Cedar Point community, serving as a constant reminder of how precious and fragile life can be, even in the most beautiful and seemingly safe environments.